Hello everyone, this is Michael D from webinar.net, a brand new company that lets you create your very own professional grade webinars. Today, I'm going to teach you how to create your very first webinar. Let's get into it. Okay everyone, so here we are at the webinar.net dashboard. There are two ways that you can create your first webinar. The first way is up here in the top right hand corner, the Create Webinar button. The second way is all the way here to the left. It's the Quick Add button. Both ways are the same, so we'll choose this one. So here we are at the Create Webinar screen, and the first step in creating our webinar is to give it a title. So I'm going to title ours, Why Webinars with Webinar.net Are Awesome. After that, we're going to move on to the Presentation from Media File option. This option is for people who like to use a pre-recorded video as their primary form of communication with the audience during their webinar. If this is you, go ahead and click this box right here, and you can upload any of the media file formats that you see right here on this line. Now, we're going to go over how to create your webinar schedule. Your schedule is a list of dates and times that your attendees can view your webinar. I'm going to quickly create a schedule so I can show you the components and how to create one for yourself. So here is the schedule that I built out. And as you can see, there's three different types of webinar schedule. The first is live, the second is pre-recorded live, and the third is on demand. Each one has a start date, a start time, an end time, and an end date, as well as you can set your time zone preference. Now, each of these options are going to be the same webinar. The only difference is how you roll them out. So, how do these different types of webinars differ? And that's a good question. For the live option, you will give a live broadcast to your audience that they will listen to as you give it. This will take place at a specific date and time and will be duplicated and stored so that you can later give it as a pre-recorded live or on-demand session. This way, you never have to give the same webinar twice. For the pre-recorded live option, again, you will select a specific date and time that you will give your webinar. However, there are a couple ways you can go about presenting this webinar. The first way is presentation from media file. Maybe you've already selected this button up above. The second way is to use a duplicated version of your live webinar that you have already given. This is helpful because you can edit out some flaws you might not like. The third way is to pretend like you're recording it live beforehand, and then you can take that recording, edit anything that you want, and then upload it to present at this specific time that you have chosen. The great thing about pre-recorded live webinar is that you can pretend like you're giving the webinar live, even though you really might not be. For the on-demand option, your audience is less held to a specific date and time to view your webinar. Instead, you will grant them a window in which they can view your webinar. Maybe this is a week of time, maybe this is a month, perhaps a year. The webinar will start as soon as they get there if you choose this option. For uploading purposes, this option is exactly the same as the pre-recorded live option. Don't forget, the on-demand button is not a button that will make your webinar permanently available to your audience. The webinar will only be available at the specific dates and times that you allot for it. The window, you might say. As you can see, the schedules feature gives us great control over how and when we give our webinars. Now, if you ever want to change anything in your schedules, you can use the drop-down menus. Maybe I want to change to pre-recorded live or on demand. Also, we have remove buttons. And lastly, we have two add buttons down here, where you can add a pre-recorded live schedule or another on-demand schedule. We're going to forego that option for now and finish our first webinar and click the Create button. So here is the page we are taken to once we click Create. And as you can see, here on the left-hand side, we are given a full list of customizations that we can make to our webinar. And these will be very important in impressing our attendees and making the webinar as best as we possibly can. Now, these are important, so I will make separate videos on each of them. That way, you can personally master them. For now though, we are going to look at the general settings. And as you can see, general settings is everything that we've already done. So if you ever want to go back and change it, this is where you'll do it. So you might want to change the title, the language. You can change anything about the individual schedules by clicking edit. You can even delete them. And you can always go back and add more pre-recorded live or on-demand schedules. Just don't forget to click the save button. So there you have it. That's how you create your very first webinar with webinar.net. Be sure to stay tuned as I'll be bringing you future videos so you can fully customize your perfect webinar. Be sure to like and subscribe. That way YouTube will recommend you future videos of ours so you can continue your quest to create the perfect webinar. Again, this is Michael D with webinar.net. See you next time.